Hi everyone, it's been a while, but I wanted to make a video now that the new Star Wars teaser is out. Star Wars, the next film, which is subtitled The Force Awakens, is due out around Christmas of next year. A whole year's got to go by, and of course I'm reminded of when the Phantom Menace, the first Phantom Menace trailer came out. In November of '98, I saw it in front of the Tony Scott movie Enemy of the State, as well as on TV. I taped it off of Entertainment Tonight. I'd been watching it religiously at that point, waiting for the thing to come out, and once I got it on VHS, I rewatched it, dozens of times. And I've already watched this trailer quite a few times as well, including, the reaction trailers that I've seen, one of which was particularly funny. Yeah, it's very similar, actually. I feel real similar to this as I did to the original one, which is funny because the first trailer for The Phantom Menace from '98 had a lot more dialogue and a lot more information about the story. They featured Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman very prominently, had dialogue from all of them, as well as from Palpatine as well. And there's no dialogue in this at all, just narration. There's a grand total of 11 shots in this movie. But they're good ones. From what we see so far, from what I see so far, it's looking promising. Of course, anything that George Lucas isn't directly involved with is more promising than the prequels. Each one of those movies, when they came out, I was very excited for, despite the fact that I wasn't satisfied with the film that came before it. Every single one of them, because it's Star Wars, and Star Wars is just by its nature very exciting to me. I was 4 years old when the first Star Wars movie came out. Don't think I saw it right away, but soon after. And I was quite obsessed with that whole universe and with the characters, and was probably the first movie in which I not only memorized the characters' names but also the actors playing them, and memorized George Lucas's name and memorized John Williams' name, and so on. Had lots of the toys, just was a devoted fanboy. And so when the prequels came out, I was very excited for them. I was excited to see those first few shots. Excited to see what a Star Wars movie would look like with, CGI that actually belonged in the movie as opposed to the CGI that was, inserted, years later, as they did in the original trilogy. So with this new trailer, it has a more modern influence. Looks like there's some handheld camera work, which is something that you wouldn't see very much of in previous Star Wars movies. I'm thinking, of course, of the shot of the troopers in the trooper carrier. Stormtroopers look like their suits have been redesigned slightly. You see the back of one of them which looks different from the ones from Return of the Jedi and such, as well as the helmets. The helmets look like they have their mascara running a bit. But you get a land speeder, you get the Millennium Falcon, you get the classic TIE fighters, you get pretty much, I understand, I've read that the X-Wing fighters have been redesigned slightly, but they look very, very similar. Plus we get shots of John Boyega from Attack of the Block, and Daisy Ridley on the land speeder, which is presumably a scene set on Tatooine, and Oscar Isaac. And of course we get a Sith character in a black cloak in a snowy forest with a lightsaber that has a few extra implements on it. And a droid, of course, a droid that rolls around on a sphere rather than has wheels set in the bottom of its feet or what have you. Am I forgetting anything? No, that's pretty much it. Yeah, it's exciting to see. And that whole last shot with the Millennium Falcon dodging the TIE fighters definitely reminds me of one of the shots from Abrams' Star Trek, with the camera kind of twisting this way and that. It looks fun, and it's got the great music and everything like that, and narration from someone who sounded like Benedict Cumberbatch, but it's probably Andy Serkis. His normal speaking voice is actually pretty deep. If you've seen 13 Going on 30 or any of his interviews, he has a pretty deep speaking voice. Doesn't always sound like Gollum all the time. It's exciting. And I've seen lots of people speculating on what's happening in each one of these shots right here, and I just kind of want to go, calm down, guys, calm down, A couple years from now, you'll know, you'll have seen the movie 3 times already. You'll know every single aspect of the storyline. There's plenty of movies coming out between now and then. No need to try and decipher every single thing that's going to happen a year before the movie comes out. Because if you figure everything out beforehand, there aren't going to be any surprises left in the actual movie. I really value the work of writers and directors and editors and what have you, and the movies are designed to be taken a scene at a time, a moment at a time, and knowing too much about them in previews or reviews or synopses or spoilers or what have you is only going to spoil your enjoyment, only going to ruin your enjoyment of the film itself once it comes out. And you want to like the film, don't you? You don't want to have to, ignore everything you've learned in order to enjoy the movie instead of anticipating every moment, which is something that I did quite a bit with those first few Star Wars prequels. I knew most everything that would happen in them because I was so jacked for them, and that didn't help. That didn't help me enjoy the movies. They aren't that good to begin with, but that made it even worse because there was hardly any surprises at all. But yes. I really enjoy the idea of a new Star Wars movie with this sort of fresh blood in there. And I'm going to be excited for it, and it's definitely going to be on my list of most anticipated movies of 2015. Probably not at the very top. I can think of at least one other movie that I'm looking forward to more than that one. But it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see something like this come along. The more modern sensibility, the more modern style combined with the classic imagery and the classic elements of Star Wars from the 70s and 80s. It's a great thing. There was one other thing that I wanted to address in this video. Excuse me, my throat's been rough lately. And that is kind of a tag video, or it was maybe a weekly chat video, I'm not really sure. But I watched the video by Michael, aka Gray 1951, about epic movies. What makes a movie an epic film? And for me, it's very simple. It's a movie where the story is large in scope or scale. And some people in their videos have objected to the use of a lot of CGI. They think that epics really ought to have practical locations, actual sets, and what have you, rather than have them done with special effects. And I can understand people objecting to that in the Star Wars movies, which has all the green screen. But what about the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies? They use a lot of CGI in order to add mountains and create these vast castles and what have you. I don't see nearly as many people objecting to that. I remember when Roger Ebert reviewed Gladiator, the Ridley Scott movie Gladiator, he objected to the use of a partial stadium that was complemented with CGI to complete it, and CGI crowds and what have you. It's like, if you can't get the actual thing built and you can't get the actual extras there to populate it, then you shouldn't even be making the movie in the first place. I'm like, come on. Okay, effects are always used to help tell a story. Sometimes they're bad, but sometimes they're good, and I don't think that necessarily the technique or the quality of the effects determines whether or not a movie can be considered an epic or not. As much as I don't like the Star Wars prequels, I would consider all 3 of those movies to be epics, as well as the original trilogy. There are a lot of movies that I would consider to be epics because the events of the movie affect such a wide range of people. And it doesn't get a lot bigger than a Star Wars movie because we're talking about the fate of an entire galaxy and who rules over it and things like that. Those are epics, in every sense of the word, even if they were actually shot mostly on sound stages and had artificial backgrounds added later. Having real backgrounds certainly helps sell the whole impression of it, but you can't say that a movie isn't an epic just because they used more green screen than other movies. It's all about the story and where the story is set and what the scope of it is in terms of, the events rather than just the actual images themselves. Having epic images, is certainly a good selling point. But yeah, there's a lot of movies that I would probably consider epics that other people do not. I wouldn't necessarily consider Gladiator an epic, because the story is a bit more small scale than, say, another Ridley Scott movie called Kingdom of Heaven. I think the scale of that movie and the events that affect more people, it's just more vast in its scope. So I would say, you know, Kingdom of Heaven is an epic, whereas Gladiator, maybe not necessarily. Although it does have big set pieces, that doesn't necessarily make it an epic. So yeah, it's all a matter of perspective, I think. That's just my perspective on it. This is how I feel about what makes an... And this is, of course, to separate it from the adjective epic, where you go, oh man, that was epic, meaning it was more like, you know, really, really great or something like that, rather than actually huge. Kind of like the way people in the UK use the word brilliant. A lot of times I get the feeling that brilliant means really great, rather than really smart or really clever. That's just my impression of it. Maybe I'm getting that wrong. I don't think so, though. So yeah, it's been a little bit since I did a video, but I wanted to talk a little bit about Star Wars and this other recent video. So thank you for watching. I also wanted to mention the fact that I'm on this collaboration channel, the Movie Reviewers 100. If you're a new subscriber to me, I'll leave a link to that channel below. There's a group of us that posts on a weekly basis on a particular theme. So if you haven't checked out that channel, I'd appreciate you doing so. And also, of course, I have a Facebook page. You can comment there, give me feedback and what have you. It's a little bit easier for me anyway than it is for YouTube comments, although I do occasionally respond to YouTube comments. The whole Google Plus thing has kind of messed me up there, and I don't want to negatively impact my account by letting Google take it over. So thank you very much for watching. Appreciate it, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Bye.